definitely. How do you decide to show up for your world now?
Doing things like this, coming on a podcast and sharing my story, and showing people that transformation is possible.
Yeah, definitely. 100% agree with you. What do you have going on as far as your world and where you are? Do you have a plan, going into your future?
Yeah, so
Some
the
goals?
next 2 to 5 years, I definitely want to continue to put my story out there. I wrote a couple books. I definitely want to release some of those.
Yes.
Write some more books.
Yes. What are the books about?
Just about my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the one is called Holding Space, and it's about friendship.
No kidding. Friendship with what? With who?
It was about just friendship that I had growing up. There was a couple people that were I just felt like had my back.
Wow, absolutely. That's interesting.
And that was after I found out I was an empath, and I started working on my clear audio.
Yes.
And I had a couple downloads.
That's
and
awesome.
One of them, when it becomes really clear, it's almost like a screaming almost, because it's so loud.
Yeah.
And it just said, write a book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I certainly hope that you get that out. Whoa. So Marie, just there she is.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. It was like the equivalent to talking to yourself. However, I noticed you were gone though, so that was kind of cool. I didn't keep talking. That's awesome. I'm so proud of you for doing that, and I certainly hope that you get that out there and continue to talk about that. That's fantastic.
And the main thing with how you work with your clear audio is meditation.
Okay. Absolutely. How often do you meditate?
I meditate in the morning about 15, 20 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and then I do it again at night.
And what do you feel like that does for you?
It helps center me and ground me, and allows me to hear the messages that are meant for me.
Absolutely. Do you recommend people to do that?
Absolutely.
What's the difference between what you just said and meditation? Is there an actual difference in how you do it?
There are so many different ways to meditate.
Okay.
You could do dancing meditation. You could do movement meditation. Do walking meditation. We just went to our local park, and they have like a labyrinth.
Yes.
So it's like a walking meditation.
Very interesting.
And then, of course, there's the guided meditations, the normal ones that most people think about.
Yeah. Do you ever invite your son to do this stuff with you?
Yes. He doesn't want to.
Yeah.
But I invite him.
Oh, that's great.
He's
15
years old.
How old?
15.
So do you see that there's like he's letting some of it in reluctantly? Like, can you tell?
Not really.
Love the honesty. Sometimes it takes a second though, my son is now 17 and I see that a lot of the stuff that I've implemented into his world, they start to grasp it for their own. And what's so interesting is I'll sometimes ask him, because I want the mom credit for that. And I'll ask him, I'll be like, how did you know to do that? Or how did you know to say that or respond like that or whatever it is? And it's so ingrained, like unconsciously, without him realizing that I even embedded that in him. He says, "Oh, I just figured it out myself." Or I just knew it. I just automatically knew that. And in my head, I'm like, dang it. He doesn't connect it.
Right.
But, you know, and I let him, that's fine. You know, I don't
Yeah.
steal that from him. But, you know, they do start to pick that up. So that's, you'll see that, I'm sure. You'll see that, I'm sure. Um, I've loved everything that you've had to say. Your story is incredible. I feel like we could talk for like 6 hours going in depth about all that stuff, and just listening in, I can't even imagine people that are going to be watching this on replay just kind of thinking to themselves, what else, tell us more, because that's such an interesting journey that only very few people are on. You know,
Yes.
it's definitely kind of a hidden journey that people don't necessarily talk about out loud. When did you decide that you were comfortable talking about that, by the way? All of that whole background. Is that just recently?
I went through a process of just talking live, period. I had a issue. Like I was a burlesque dancer, and I could go on stage, and I could take my clothes off, but I didn't have to talk.
Yes.
So this is totally different.
Yes. Yes.
But
do you consider this part of your healing, though?
Absolutely.
Like, yeah. And that's what I talk about, the importance of sharing your story.
Yes.
You know, there's probably so many women that are dealing with similar storylines as what you've been through, and I can't even begin to relate at all. But just realizing, you know, that there's people out there that are coerced into living a lifestyle that they're not down with, and trying to save something, you know.
And for the most part, I know now that it wasn't meant for me.
Yeah.
And I was fighting for something that wasn't meant for me.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. What would you, if I had, you know, a woman on here right now, maybe 28 years old, listening and struggling emotionally, mentally in her relationship, whatever that looks like to her, with her partner, what are some words or some advice that you'd have for her listening right now?
If you start your self-love journey of really being present with yourself, what does that feel like?
Absolutely.
What does that sound like? What thoughts come up in your mind? And then really sit with that. Does that person fit in that version of yourself? Really think about it.
What sort of emotion should they be aware of, as far as realizing there's a different way?
When you're sitting with yourself in meditation, for the most part, it should feel good. You have a sense of peace, a sense of calm. And if you're out in the world with this person during the day, and it doesn't feel like that at all, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
The only thing you're doing is hurting yourself.
Absolutely.
You're causing mental stress, you're causing physical stress. You could cause yourself to be physically ill.
Yeah.
And that is the law of attraction.
Absolutely.
You are manifesting all those things in your life.
Yeah.
By continuing to be in that situation. So the main thing that I talk about is minding your T. So the T stands for thoughts. What kind of thoughts are you saying to yourself? What kind of thoughts are in here? And you'll only know in meditation when you're quiet and you can actually sit there and concentrate on those thoughts.
Yeah.
And then the E stands for environment. Who are you sharing your energy with? Who are you sharing your thoughts with? And then the A stands for action.
Yes.
What are you doing in response to those first two things? How are you showing up in the world? Because you'll notice that when you don't take care of those first two things, you're showing up in the world not so great. Your actions are showing you that you're not feeling good. So when you work on those first two things, then you can show up differently in the world.
Yeah.
You can have different opportunities because you're different.
Absolutely. I love that. I want to thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story. Absolutely fantastic, and what a turnaround! I can't even imagine the individual that I would have met. Back then.
Absolutely.
And just even the slight darkness or denial or feeling as if you're hiding something almost.
Yes.
So interesting, and I can just feel now the openness, obviously, that you have with yourself, with your story, with your world, and how the release of that must just feel so good to be so open and so vulnerable and authentic with who you are, and the freeness that you must feel.
Yes.
It's so awesome. That's so awesome. Do you have any closing thoughts?
So before we started this podcast, I drew a card. So I would like to share that with you now.
Yeah.
I drew the great teacher.
Look at you. I love that.
Know what is happening to you is divinely inspired.
Wow.
And to use your experiences to teach others.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I was like, I hear you loud and clear.
Yes. How wonderful and reassuring. How wonderful and reassuring. Are you open to doing more podcasts?
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. So anyone listening who knows somebody or is somebody in that realm, you got a lady here who has an amazing story of so much depth. I kind of low key wish that we could kind of dive into some of the niches of that, because I can't even imagine the thought process through some of that stuff. I know that sitting in your story for too long isn't necessarily a healthy thing to do, but really kind of digging into what some of that is and what it means and what it felt like just fascinates me. Absolutely fascinates me. But thank you so much. Thank you for coming on and sharing some of that. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. And I look forward to sitting down with you again at some point in the future and creating another atmosphere like this.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Of course, of course. All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining us here on Her Version. If you have an amazing story to share or struggle to triumph, be sure to reach out to me here or at herversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here with Marie, sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. Have an amazing day. Much love.